Hey guys, Timothy Roberts here. In this video, we're going to talk about the batch of cymbals that I just dropped to the website. I'm committing to an every 2 to 3 weeks, dropping a batch of cymbals. They're going to be smaller, they're going to be much more curated this time, and there's going to be a mix of the Reverie brand as well as the Timothy Roberts brand. Very quickly, the difference between the Reverie and the TR is the Reverie is made using the tire hammer you see behind me, and they're made with a simpler process, and it saves me a lot of time in production. They're made with the same quality B20 alloy, but I'm not doing patinas on them. I'm not doing extreme layering processes like I do with the Timothy Roberts brand, and they have a much more limited selection. So there's not as many sizes and offerings with that brand. And I'm doing that to be able to offer a lower price point cymbal that's still handmade, still super high quality. And then the Timothy Roberts brand is where I can just kind of explore and make the cymbals that I want to make with no matter how long it takes me. Some cymbals take me 10 hours to make just because I'm kind of really chasing a sound that I have in my head and really trying to explore the material and see if I can pull something interesting out of it. So in this batch drop, we have some really special cymbals. The one I'm most fond of is the one that's sitting in front of me right now. This is a 22-inch landmark cymbal that weighs 2,332 grams. Really wonderful weight for this kind of sound. It's got a medium tall profile. I did quite a bit of layering on this cymbal. It was finished multiple times before, and I just kept feeling like it had something else in it that I wanted to coax out of it. And so there is quite a bit of layering with the hammering, and you can see when you come up close that there's quite a bit of topography on the cymbal. And this is what's giving it that aggressive, hissy growl kind of sound. And as for a landmark, this is actually kind of borderline a labyrinth cymbal, just with the amount of complexity that's coming off of it. And I'm really loving the way that it sounds. It's a wonderful light ride. It has a beautiful crash to it, but there's still plenty of stick definition to cut through in acoustic settings. Yeah, huge fan of this one. I wanted to keep it for myself, but I'm forcing myself to put it in the batch. And then as for the rest of the cymbals, there's quite a few other really special ones too. I have a 22-inch Tributary that is very thin, weighs 2,194 grams. A lot of patina process to this one. A lot of putting a patina on, stripping it back, putting it back on, just kind of trying to find the right shade and also the right sound. Because there were some patina applications where it was just too heavy, and then some where it wasn't enough. And 2,194 grams is very, very thin for a 22-inch cymbal. So with a cymbal like this, it's all about getting control and stick definition, because it's going to have a crash. It's going to have wash and spread. And so it has, again, quite a bit of layering to it with the hammering, lathing, burnishing, patina, all that kind of stuff. I've got a little bit of a hook at the edge, and then I added 3 rivets to this one, so let's check it out. So really a high level of control in that cymbal. So it's got a dryness to it that's pretty amazing for how thin it is. So a cymbal like this could actually be used in situations where you need to dig in a little bit more and you'll have stick definition, but it's because of the mass, the weight of it, it's going to open up really easily and have a nice open sound. That's why the 3 rivets are there. It's like the cymbal and the way that it is set up allows for rivets. Usually a cymbal that's really thin like this, if it's got a low shape and it's got a lot of wash, the rivets are going to muddy it up even more, and it's really going to hide the stick definition. So this guy's profile is medium, low. It's got a little bit of a hook out at the edge. The surface has got some topography to it. It's got that nice brown patina. That's the only one in this batch that's got the 3 rivets. Then we come to this bad boy here. This is a 23-inch Prism series cymbal. This one has a little bit of a taller profile, and the idea with the Prism series is to go for old K sounds and shapes, but if they were freshly made, so not aged. So they have a little bit more brightness to them, a little bit more cut and shimmer, but they're very, very, overall, very dark sounding cymbals because of the shape and the little hooks and trajectory changes, dips and stuff like that. I'm not going for perfection at all with the Prism series, but it has the brilliant finish on top. So really love this series and really love to explore the sounds that it has to offer. Yeah, it's got a big ruckus crash, but a lot of control on the stick. So this one could be used in a lot of different settings. The bell is hand formed, and I left a lot more weight on the bell relatively. When you hand form a bell from a totally flat blank, you are stretching that material and thinning it as it stretches. So you really got to be careful as a cymbalsmith not to lay the way too much weight, because you've already thinned it out just by the process of hammering it. So it has very little lathing in the bell portion so that you have a really nice clear bell sound. So there's like this cuttingness to it that lives in kind of the top end, but because it's hand formed and because of the transition into the bridge, I've got an integratedness where it's actually activating the body of the cymbal. So big fan of that one. Then we've got a 21 Tributary here that weighs 2,048 grams. This one has got kind of a dark, mellow smoothness to it for the Tributary series, which I really like. The Tributary is kind of the vintage cymbal aged sound, because I use different techniques to kind of get a tighter, more icy sounding stick definition with the really dark, mellow, smoky kind of sound that old vintage cymbals have. Got a smaller hand-formed bell and a nice medium-high profile that has kind of more of a triangular shape, so it doesn't like hook at the edge and then flatten off. It kind of goes all the way up to the bell in more of a triangle type shape. That's what's giving it the nice crash, the warmth. It doesn't have a lot of aggression to it. It's more of a mellow cymbal, which is great for certain sounds. And in the beginning, I was playing that 22 landmark I started with on the right and this one on the left, and they worked beautifully together because you had the 22 landmark on your right with that kind of aggression and had that cut to it that could really like punch out in front of the band, and then you had this nice sweeter sound to go to as a contrast. So I always like to think about contrast with cymbals and being able to have different voices, different colors to go to. You don't want too many cymbals that sound the same in your set. And then we got a 21 half flat Prism. This one weighs 1,953 grams. This is a flat ride, but not really, and kind of sweet and glassy, but not really. It's kind of a lot of things at once. And I love these cymbals because if you like flat rides, but you want one that can crash a little bit more, these nice mini bells are great for that, these half flat bells. If you have good enough aim, you can even get a bell tone out of it. You can get that really nice knocking sound with the stick definition, that, especially with the grip, if you use the click grip. I love these half flats. They're really great. And then the last two in this batch are of the Reverie series. So we have, first up, this 21-inch Reverie prototype Foundation Dry. It's got a little bit of a unlathed crust left up near the bell. The bell was also not hammered, so I was purposely going for a smoother sounding bell on this one. And then we have a 22-inch Reverie prototype Lab cymbal, which is kind of an offshoot of the Labyrinth, so taller profiles, a little bit more complex and dark, and a little bit aggressive for certain kinds of music. The 22 weighs 2,482 grams, and the 21 weighs 2,290 grams. Let's check them both out. Yeah, these Reverie prototype cymbals, they have a cleanliness to them, a little bit more cut, a little bit more clarity to them. So the idea with this cymbal line is, obviously I'm taking less time to make them, so I'm able to pass that on as a savings. But they're also designed with slightly heavier weights, designed with a little bit more clarity and focus, and designed really to be used in slightly louder situations. So rock and roll, they're good for that. They're good for yeah, any kind of musical situation where you need the cymbals to cut and be clear and to speak, so that, you know, out front, way out front, you're able to really hear the stuff. The TR brand is also heading in that direction, but I still make a lot of really thin cymbals with the TR brand, which a lot of guys like these days, the really thin stuff. And those are a challenge because you just don't have the mass to kind of cover over any kind of muddiness that might be in the hammering or the balance of the tension. So when you have a really thin cymbal, it's a challenge to make it speak clearly, and that's always the goal for me with thinner stuff. Heavier stuff, it's a little bit more straightforward because the mass is there, meaning the stick definition is going to be there. It's going to be more clear and it's going to cut. And you know, this is debatable, but to me, heavier cymbals are just easier to make. And maybe I'm a little crazy and just want to make life hard for myself, which is why I go for the harder type of cymbal to make. But I have been heading more in the direction of making heavier cymbals all around, and that's going to exhibit itself in the Reverie brand, but also in the Timothy Roberts brand. So that is the batch of cymbals for this week. So you can check them out as of the posting of this video. They're on reveriedrums.com. And after I wrap up the video, you'll be able to see the isolated demos where the camera's behind the kit and I'm using different sticks, and you can really listen through in depth. And you can click the link below to see the available cymbals on my website. And yeah, I'm interested to know which one is your favorite, so please drop a comment below. And yeah, let me know what you like the best. And subscribe, hit the bell if you want notifications. And otherwise, keep an eye out for the next video. My name is Timothy Roberts. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, as a little postscript to these batch drop videos, I wanted to show you guys the kit that I used. It is 2 drums that are the same circumference. So we got a 15-inch snare drum, 15 by 5, and yes, 15 by 5. Ribbon mahogany. This is a brand new drum we made. The kick drum is an old Ludwig field snare drum. So it's a 15 by 11, 15 by 12 maybe, that we restored. Someone had taken the single tension hardware and sprayed gold hardware, gold paint on the hardware. And I was gonna strip that off, but it just looked so cool. I was like, we gotta keep this thing. So single tension drum, it's got 10 lugs. It's funky. It's got a low tuning to it, so I can actually bury the beater and get a great sound out of it, but I can also play the beater off the head and get a nice open sound. I've used this on so many jazz gigs recently. It is a really killer sound, and I recently purchased a bunch of old vintage snare drums that I'm going to convert into small bass drums, and we're going to offer them eventually. So if you're interested in a sound like this, hit me up. We can actually, we've got the stuff to make them. This is my personal one, and what I love about this combination is that there's wildness to each drum. There's a wildness to a 15-inch snare drum. This is an 8 lug, if I didn't say it, so it's got kind of this ringy open thing, but I've got really wide snares on it too, so the wide snares allow it to have kind of this like hissy, breathy, sustain and kind of tail to the sound. And yeah, I love kind of the out of control nature of drums like this, because they give you so much more sound to play with. You can really play a little bit more spacious and allow the sound of the drums to fill up that space. You're not feeling like you got to play so fast and do a bunch of chops, because the drums aren't really made for that. They're not really set up for that. So you got these nice, big, open, ringy sounds on the snare. And it's still ringing. Look at that, it's still ringing. The tone on the kick drum has this, almost like it has a gate to it. And there's a wrinkle on the front head, so there's not even enough tension on one of these single tension lugs to even get the tension out. So it's got a looseness in one of the heads, which is kind of killing the sustain at a certain point. Or you can bury the beater. Nice and tight, punchy, short, quick. I love these kinds of sounds. So anything that's funky and weird and a little bit different is what I look for in drums, and it's a lot of what we make at Reverie on the drum side of things. Is we're doing kind of funky designs, unique designs to get different kinds of sounds. With the cymbals, it's all about vibe for me. It's like creating a nice vibey sound. I'm not usually going for super clean or like ultra versatile. I'm going for something that's inspiring to play. And it's the same concept with the drums. Something that has like a quirky thing to it, like it's a 15-inch snare drum, so it's got extra ring, or it's a weird field snare that's been restored, but it's not tuned evenly, so it's got a weird funkiness to it and a gated sound. All that kind of stuff is like, that's what I love in drum sounds. So that's what I love, but I would love to know what you guys think, so please drop a comment below about the drums here. Is this the kind of thing you would find yourself playing, or do you find it too weird? Or have you ever even heard of this concept of taking an old field snare and converting it into a kick drum? Or even a kick drum that's 15 inches. That's like insanely small. I've made 14-inch kicks. Well, actually, I've made a 13-inch kick one time. It was a little bit silly. The 14-inch ones are borderline silly. 15-inch ones, it's like magic. There's something about a 15-inch kick drum that I absolutely love. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below.